What's up, guys? I'm Captain Mike and welcome back to my rigging station. Today we are going to talk about schoolie dolphin. Okay, I want to really share a bunch of details about how we find and fool the schoolie dolphin throughout the Keys area here. It's such a popular fishery. I mean, everybody loves catching dolphin. And certainly out of all of the fisheries here in the Keys, I think unquestionably dolphin attract the most attention, the most anglers, the most ambition, and certainly the most rewarding fisheries out here as well. Very, very consistent. And this year, the bite's been on fire. We've had one of the best dolphin fishing seasons in general that I can remember since I've lived down here. Certainly within the last decade, 2025 will stand out at one of the absolute best dolphin fishing seasons. There's a lot of fish out there, a lot of schoolies. It's kind of dwindled a little right now in early August, but it'll flip back around. I'm certain more fish will move through. But previously, May, June, July, absolutely exceptional. Look, there's so many different ways to catch dolphin. You can go out there with a boat full of live bait, wells blacked out, and of course you're gonna do really well. Pull up to any weed patch, any floating debris, throw live pilchards in the water, and you're gonna catch fish. Anywhere, any dolphin anywhere are gonna come to the boat. And it's an absolutely fantastic tactic, it really is. Live bait fishing dolphin is a staple. And if you can do it, and if you're looking for the numbers, great, I encourage you to do so, because you're gonna have an absolutely awesome time. However, there are other ways, and for me, just on a personal basis, I've caught a lot of dolphin. I've been very fortunate. I fished in a lot of places all over the world. I've caught a lot of big ones, 30s, 40s, approaching 50 pounds. So schoolies, it's hard to really get fired up about them. But if you put a twist to it, if you make it a little bit more challenging, I find that the fishery is just super, super fun. I like to troll. I'm a trolling kind of guy. Some people like it, some people don't. I do. My roots, all the way back Northeast Canyons, trolling for tunas, trolling for bluefish, for striped bass, everything up there. So, here I like to troll as often as I can as well. And that means for the wahoo and obviously for the dolphin. I like to increase that challenge. I don't bring any fresh bait, any natural bait. I'm not pulling ballyhoo and I'm not throwing live pilchards. Do I have any fresh bait on the boat? Of course I do. And I'll tell you why, because as you know, when you're out there dolphin fishing, at any time, fish could approach the boat. Just recently, we were reeling in a beautiful cow, and here comes a 40-pound bull right next door. You gotta be ready for those opportunities. You have to be. So I don't care what you're doing when you're out there dolphin fishing. Make sure you've got some spinning rods rigged and ready to go, okay? Again, I don't care if I'm trolling offshore, near shore, we're gonna get into that. A Chaos SP 15 to 30 pound class, 7-foot spinning outfit. It's a standard spinning outfit, loaded with an 8,000 or 10,000 size spinning reel, filled with 20-pound diamond braid with some monofilament top shot right above it right there, okay? Because you don't want to fish that braid right to the leader, right to the hook. You need some more elasticity, you need some stretch. Big dolphin jump, they race off in different directions, so you need that elasticity to prevent pulled hooks on big fish. But this is a great outfit for throwing a pitch bait at a fish that comes up next to the boat. Regardless if it's 5 pounds or 55 pounds, you'll be able to slay them with this outfit here. But let's get back into the trolling. Look, we all know dolphin are one of the fastest growing fish, if not the fastest growing pelagic game fish. These fish can swim 25 to 100 miles in a single day. In a single day, so where they were today may not be where they're gonna be tomorrow, I promise you that. Or on the contrary, if you didn't find them today, doesn't mean you're not gonna find them tomorrow. So keep that in mind, that fish are moving through. If there's a consistent food source, not uncommon for dolphin to linger in the area if the conditions are ideal. But when the Gulf Stream current is ripping the way it is right now, and if fish are on the move, they're gonna move. They're gonna follow bait. They're gonna follow the patterns. They're gonna do what dolphin do. Okay, so keep in mind, every day is different. That's what's so cool about this fishery. Every day is different. So here in Marathon, Middle Florida Keys, I like to leave early in the morning, to beat the boat traffic, okay? I want to get out there and hit some of these lines, hit some of these bird flocks, that are working before there's 12 other boats on the same little thing, So early bird gets the worm when it comes to schoolie dolphin fishing. I really believe that. But certainly you can catch them throughout the day. And if you put in the time, you're going to. I promise you. Look, if you come down here to the Keys, certainly this season here, if you put in the time offshore, you are going to find schoolie dolphin. You may even find some gaffers mixed in, okay? And of course, every now and then, that beautiful big cow and bull pop up. But it's all about the numbers, right? If you're just looking for action. But remember, we've got to be conservation minded too. So even though we're talking about finding and fooling these fish and catching them in, relatively big numbers, doesn't mean that you need to bring home 30, 40, 50 dolphin. Come on, don't. Okay, I'm going to stress that. I say it in all my fishing reports, and I'm going to say it here. A few dolphin, few per person, whatever, 2 or 3. I mean, come on. Don't get carried away. That's all. Just look ahead, be conservation minded. Anyhows, when we're trolling, we leave Mercury-powered Sea Hunter 41 CTS. You guys know my boat. We're fishing this cat. What an incredible fishing machine. Outfitted with a Furuno TZTXL network. Now, I stress that because that TZTXL network is providing me with a lot of situational awareness, a lot of data, a lot of information before I ever even leave the dock. I can dial in not only weather patterns, but the current. I could see exactly where the edge of the Gulf Stream is on that particular moment. Okay, I can monitor weather, I can monitor current using radar, I can monitor storms, I could look for birds. Better yet, I use my radar not only to find birds, but to find weed lines. That's right, this Furuno TZTXL with this radar, let me tell you something, this thing is so dialed in, literally, there's a weed line right there 2 miles away. So it really opens up your eyes to so much more. And it provides me with that big picture. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm going to find when I get there. Once I'm there, I've used all of these tools that I have to really gather as much information as I can. I'm dolphin fishing and I need to read the water. Okay, I need to understand what's happening around me at every moment. And that includes below the surface on the fish finder, on the surface, looking for those weed lines, for flying fish, any debris, current edges, color changes, anything that I could see on the surface, right? And then above that, I'm looking in the sky. I'm monitoring storms in the distance, but more importantly, I'm looking for that bird life, okay? I'm looking for birds, flocks that are working tight to the water. Come on, that screams fish right here, okay? It really does. And then, of course, there's the frigates. What an incredible bird, the magnificent frigate. Look, this thing spends the majority of its time up to a mile in the sky. That's why you don't see them all of the time. They're way up there riding the wind, okay? Really, really cool. They only sleep about an hour a day. So what a magic bird, right? However, can't get his wings wet, can't get his feathers wet. He's not covered with that same waterproofing oil as a lot of other seabirds. So he's got to hunt in a really strategic way. He's got to pick off big baits off the surface. So he knows big dolphin, force big bait up into the surface, primarily flying fish. When he's hungry, he's going to ride those wind currents down. We look up and go, wow, look at that frigate. He's got to be on top of a dolphin. He may or may not be, okay, depending on his behavior. Learn how to read the birds. What is that frigate doing? What's his activity level? Is he close to the water picking bait because something's forcing that bait up? Or is he just scouting the area? Typically, the height above the water, the distance above the water, is the depth at what that dolphin is looking at below the surface. So just kind of remember that. Nevertheless, using all of my tools, I'm gathering as much information as I can before I finally pull a trigger and say, okay, right here, let's try right here. Let's put the lures in and, try and cover ground and fish right here. Typically, that's anywhere from 10 to 20 miles offshore here in the Keys. That'll vary depending on what I'm seeing. I rarely start looking for schoolies until I'm at least 10 miles offshore, 10, 12 miles offshore. There's guys that'll fish the edge right, off the reef, and certainly you can catch dolphin there on occasion. The fish will move in. Guys even caught dolphin on the reef while they're snapper fishing, okay? But typically speaking, they're gonna be further offshore. They're gonna be in that 650 to 700 foot range and beyond. So that's really where I'm gonna start looking. I'll get out there, blow by everybody, and once I'm on that edge bright and early in the morning, we start looking, right, for all of those signs, all of those signs. And when it all comes together and says, hey, fish right here, boom, now it's time to get down and dirty. At this point, typically, co-captain Bobby McDonald will jump on the wheel. Okay, I'll pop out the taco outriggers. We fish 20-foot collapsible carbon fiber riggers. Even though you can rig them with up to 3 release clips, I only use 1 on each. Why is that? Because here in the Keys, we have a lot of grass, so much, I'm telling you, there's so much grass out there. I was out yesterday. You can't troll, you just can't troll without getting grass on your baits. And it's just everywhere. So it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. But if you're in that cockpit and you're working it, every lure that's got grass, bring it up, clear it, put it back out. Don't stand there and look at the spread and think, oh, my lures aren't gonna catch grass. Yes, they are. There's grass everywhere, okay? So you really gotta work it and keep your lures clean. However, I'm telling you, within that grass, like I said, it's a blessing and a disguise because, of course, that's where all the food is, and obviously that attracts dolphin as well. Nevertheless, we've zeroed in on an area. Boom, right here we're fishing. We've got the birds, maybe a few just flying around, maybe a flock working, which is really what we want to see. Okay, look, when you're offshore, I would rather fish birds than fish weed lines. What do I mean by that? A lot of times you'll see grass out there, a well-formed line, even a big patch. You could troll by it, nobody's home, nobody's home. But you see a flock of birds all working on the surface, I promise you, somebody's home. There's activity going on below the surface. There's a bait ball, they're dolphin, they're whatever type of forage. It's all being forced up to the surface and the birds are picking on it. They're involved in the feeding frenzy. There's something happening, I promise you. So certainly I would rather fish those flocks of birds that are working than a well-formed line. Now, if you can combine the two, you just hit the jackpot. You find some nice weed lines, big weed patches, and birds working in the same area, and I promise you, you're gonna score. You're gonna catch dolphin there, okay? And that might be 10, 12 miles offshore, Middle Keys. It might be 20 to 30 offshore. I can't tell you. Every day is different, right? Every day. So you've got to get out there and put in the time. Now, once we put those taco riggers out, I like to fish a clean spread, something I can manage myself. And certainly if you have a team on the boat and everybody's dialed in, this is really easy to do. But I could easily fish 7 rods. There's a system, 7 lines, okay? That's what I like to fish. Very first bait I'm gonna fish is my shotgun bait. And look, all of my trolling rods when I'm looking for schoolies are all identical. I'm fishing the Chaos KC 15 to 30 pound class 7-foot conventional outfit. Guys, it's the most versatile outfit I own. I fish it for so many different species. I've talked about it over and over for years. There's a reason, okay? And still, till this day, this is my go-to outfit when I'm trolling for schoolie dolphin. I match it with a size 12 or 16 reel, Italica in this case. I don't care what reel you use, as long as you have plenty of line capacity. Plenty of line capacity. Now I backed a reel with 20-pound braid because you just never know what you're gonna hook out there, and I wanna have a fighting chance against everything. So a ton of backing, then I go to 20-pound diamond line in a high vis color. In this particular case, Orange Crush, as you can clearly see. Makes it really easy to see that line in the trolling spread, okay? Not necessary, but certainly helpful. Really is. So on all of my light duty rods, I'm going with that high vis, either the Orange Crush or a chartreuse type of color. From there though, I always include a clear top shot, 25 feet of 50-pound diamond monofilament in the special clear. Right there, I want to be as stealthy as I possibly can. So I've got that combination of visibility where I could track all of my lines, especially important if you're working that cockpit alone. Remember what I said, I could fish 7 lines easily because of this system. okay, and understanding where everything goes and the components of every outfit. Really important. I connect that mono to the monofilament top shot with a blood knot. Okay, and by the way, I connect a braid to the mono top shot with an Alberto knot. The end of my mono top shot does not have a big snap swivel. Snap swivels catch grass. Remember what I said to you before, there's a ton of grass out there right now. So we've got to minimize our signature from beginning to end. So very, very small swivel, but it's on the lure side. There's nothing on the end of the tagline. The lures, look, remember what I said earlier, you can go out there and drag ballyhoo and be successful. Absolutely, no question, okay? For me though, it's not about the quantity nowadays. It's about catching fish the way that you want to catch them. You know, it's that reward. That's what it's come down to. It's not, it's, you know, I want to go catch this fish at this time, at this place, with this tackle on this lure, you know, or using this method. That's really exciting. And when it all comes together, it's just so rewarding. So the very first bait we'll put out is just a little chugger, you know, little 5 or 6 inch chugger. These are the Zakatak Extra Smalls. We fish the Zakatak Smalls and mediums when we're way offshore looking for bigger bull dolphin and cow dolphin, potentially a blue marlin bite. But for schoolies, we size them down. We fish the extra smalls. They come in 4 different head designs. Why do I like them? Why do I fish them? A, I could pull them fast, 10, 12, 14 miles an hour. You're not gonna outrun a dolphin. I promise you, you're not gonna outrun a dolphin. So being able to pull that lure through the water at a high rate of speed, the whole spread allows me to cover a lot more ground, and potentially I'm gonna catch more fish, right? However, it's not about the speed, it's also about these lures performing properly. So remember that. A lot of guys say to me, what's the best trolling speed? The best trolling speed is the speed in which the lures are performing best in any given condition. Sometimes that may mean 8 miles an hour, it may mean 12 miles an hour. Read the water, read the lures. They've got to breathe, they've got to swim, they've got to submerge under the surface, catch air up in the face of the lure, come back up, you know, all of that air dissipates, and hopefully it just reaches the surface and kind of fills with air again before it all dissipates. So there's a system, there's a tracking, a swimming system that the lure really comes to life, okay? You don't want it just tumbling across the surface, skipping across the surface. Of course, it's not gonna look natural. You don't really want it flying through the air. You want it swimming, breathing, coming up right below the surface, does what it needs to do, comes back up. Very attractive, okay? On the face of the wave, here I am. I'm looking off the transom, back of the boat right here. We're headed in this direction. I'm back here, I'm looking at the lures. I want them on this side of the wave in front of me, okay, falling down into the wave. Not, you know, not up at the top of the crest, not on the back side of the wave, on the front side of the wave, falling into the trough. That's where you want your trolling lures. A lot of give with schoolie dolphin because they're really not as picky as some of the other, you know, far more wary big game fish, so to speak. Schoolie dolphin are pretty aggressive, and if they're feeding, they'll typically hit a lure anywhere in the spread. But for me, I like to do it right, you know, so put your position your lures in the right place. It's just going to increase your odds, and you're going to see everything. When that lure is not performing properly in that position, you may have to alter your speed, again, depending on the conditions. Remember, lately we've been seeing a lot of current out there. That means we're trolling in one direction. If you turn the boat, your speed changes by up to 4 miles an hour. Okay, 4 miles an hour. Remember that, it's a big, big difference. So, you know, it's not a set it and forget it kind of game. It's working very closely, the guy in the cockpit with the guy on the wheel. We're constantly communicating, trying to really zero in the perfect trolling speed. Very first bait I said, as I mentioned, is going to be my shotgun bait. Shotgun bait meaning way back there, okay, way back there. I want it out of the white water into clean water, plenty of line capacity. I don't need to worry about that. Clicker's on, up on the rod holder and my hard top. So it's the furthest bait above and beyond everything else. No need for, concern for a tangle or anything like that. It's way out there. Perfect. Next, our outrigger baits. We set a long outrigger bait and then a shorter outrigger bait, a little bit further, a little bit up ahead from this one. They can be even, that's okay as well. And they're both positioned ahead of that shotgun bait, okay? Once again, another Zakatak in the extra small, different pattern, different color. I don't know, I kind of find that the Dolphin will eat them all, honestly. I've caught them on every head design, every color of these Zakataks. So I don't know, you can kind of go crazy and try and establish, what you think is the best color pattern, but they eat them all. So I think it's more about the lure swimming properly, tracking properly, looking alive, acting alive, being fished in the right place at the right time. I think those factors are far more important than if it's pink, purple, or blue. Okay, although they love pink, by the way, absolute favorite. Nevertheless, we set our outrigger baits off the tacos. Remember, by the way, I just want to point out real quick, recently in one of our inside scoops, our Friday fishing reports, I touched on the importance of inspecting your outrigger clips, the clips themselves, okay? Adjusting them, keeping them well lubed, but look closely. Sometimes they get a little crack in there. It just happened to me recently. That's why I wanted to bring it up. Gets a little crack, the line gets into that crack and zing pow, done. So we talked about using rubber bands as well to connect your line to the outrigger clip. Catch that report if you can, but don't neglect the importance of those outrigger release clips. Nevertheless, then two more flats. We've got a long flat, we've got a shorter flat, and two corner baits, okay? And where do I put them? Looking off the transom, the very first wave with the whitewater, that's not how we count waves. That's just the boat itself going through the water. So the first one doesn't count. The next one would be your first wave. The following one would be your second wave. That's where we're putting our corners, okay? Right on the face, into the troughs. Those are our corner baits, right? They're our shortest. Those are always the last to be set and the first to be retrieved. That's how it works, because you always want to set your furthest baits first and your closest baits last. Now, I want to mention, check this out. You're clearing grass on a shotgun bait. You've got to bring that bait all the way back to the boat, past all of these other lures, and then you need to deploy it again because it had a bunch of sargassum on it. Bring that bait up, okay, but reposition another bait. Take your long flat, which is already out there past a lot of your other baits. They're past your corner baits, it's past your short flat. Take that long flat. Now make that your long, stick it up in the rod holder, done. Just adjust the position of the lures. That's what I love about fishing this spread. We fish 7 lines. They're all identical rods and reels. They all have the identical lure size, all of the Zakatak Extra Smalls, okay? That consistency allows us to move things around and still have a very fishable trolling spread with lures that are all fishing effectively in different positions, okay? Very, very versatile. I never mix lures with natural bait. Why? Because you can't pull a ballyhoo at the same speed that you can pull one of these. And in turn, you're never going to achieve the perfect presentation on either the artificials or on the natural bait. Okay, so choose one or the other. For me, I like the artificials, okay? Again, it's just really, really challenging and a lot of fun. We talked about the spinners. You hook a fish, remember, if you want to throw some baits, you can. If there's any other schoolies there, they'll likely approach the boat as well where you can catch them on the spinners. If you want to continue to catch them on the troll, great. Okay, we tried, guys say to me, do you reel in all of the lines? Absolutely not. I don't want to reel in any of the other lines, okay? I don't want to have to reset them. So we always keep the boat moving forward. You hook a fish, give it a few seconds, line screaming off the reel. Don't pull back that throttle yet. Give it a few seconds, and oftentimes a second fish will jump on and you'll double up. So give it a few seconds, one does or doesn't hook, jump on another bait, then pull back the throttle, but not into neutral. Keep the boat in gear. Keep the boat in gear, even if it's only one out of multiple outboards. Keep that boat moving forward. That'll keep all of your other lines tracking perfectly behind the boat. And with schoolies, you can typically work them and, go over, under, or around, or whatever it is that you need to do. Chances are that fish is not going anywhere forward of the transom. The boat is still moving forward. Okay, and again, relating to the schoolies. At that point, if we don't have to move and reel any of the other lines in, the second that that fish is boated, either in a landing net or just flipped up over the side, you typically don't need to gaff the schoolies. They tend to bounce right off the tip of the hook, of the gaff hook anyway. So just flip them up in the boat. That's why they're called flippers, a lot of fun in that fashion as well. And then immediately push the throttle back up and you're fishing again. And all you have to do is reposition one bait, and you're back in action with your full spread. So a very efficient, very convenient way to fish. Couple more tips, we'll wrap it up. Binoculars. Guys, I can't tell you how important stabilized binoculars are when you're dolphin fishing, okay? Your eyes can only see so far. Yes, radar is line of sight, but that gives you a different picture altogether. Binoculars, they're gonna make a big, big difference. We're trolling along, guy at the wheel doesn't even see that there's a flock of birds right there at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock because we can't see them. But somebody's glassing, somebody's constantly scanning the horizon, and boom, we found them. And that'll get you on the bite, okay? Put in the time, put in the effort, and you're gonna find these schoolies. Don't overdo it, okay? Telling you, don't overdo it on how many you keep. Lighten up on your tackle, 20-pound gear, that's all that you need. Keep everything light. The rods have some life to them, some action to them, which is gonna translate into how your lures are fishing. Don't think it doesn't make a difference. Every detail makes a difference, I promise you that. So look, get out there, go dolphin fishing, and I'll see you on the water.